We're getting started bright and early today. Lefty Prof is here. Thank you for coming. I am getting so that I'm enjoying these morning chats. It's changing. Honestly, a year ago, I could have never anticipated that I'd be doing this every single day, but there's just so much to talk about right now. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with all the things that are going through my head, and I find myself. Good morning. I find myself feeling a little bit better when I get on and talk with you guys. It feels like we're getting a little bit done, but there's so much to do right now. So many American citizens have still not awakened to the reality of the dangers we're facing, and we have to re-educate them. The things in this United States that are tolerated are horrific. The things that aren't being discussed in the media are horrific. It's an embarrassment to human history what's going on in this country right now. It really is. And hi, Courtney. Wonderful to see you. I really appreciate that you guys can jump on in the morning, and this is kind of just how I'm in the habit of starting my day like this. Just because I wake up a lot of times I'm not sleeping well. Um, so I kind of get up in the morning with energy with all these thoughts and nightmares and things that are just rattling around, and so it's nice to get up and just kind of talk about them. And a lot of it comes from all the wonderful. I mean, I get really, really wonderful comments from all of you. Those of you that show up to my regular talks, you give me wonderful comments. But then when I'm out in the wild, when I'm just posting articles and notes, I get some stuff that's really concerning. A lot of it is bot content. I know that. But the bot content isn't as bad almost as the stuff that comes from otherwise rational people that should know better, that consider themselves educated. Yeah, I know. And a lot of us aren't sleeping well. Yeah, thoughts and nightmares. That is a good title. I hope I tell you what, I hope I'm able to write it's gonna be Memoir of a Girl Dad or something like that. I mean, that brings me to that, what we need is some girl dad rage. That Nick Fuentes comment, that guy I just posted a note yesterday. I'm like, if you we shouldn't be even I shouldn't even be talking about him. These platforms that repeat what he has to say, and just consider that for a second. Consider how hard it is, because I have had my content featured in major publications, but it's a battle, and it's unusual for that to happen. Meanwhile, these open openly white supremacist people, these misogynists, are able to spew their hate rhetoric, and the media then quotes them as if this is a person of significance. They make that, they normalize that. And this is one of those things that we have to change. I mean, they're quoting people like Joe Rogan. That guy never deserves. They quoted what's that boxer who just got, that awful influencer. It's better that I don't even remember his name, but he just got his face separated. They should be quoting the guy, like they'll ask him political commentary. Ask Anthony Joshua, the guy who separated his flesh from his skull, who is clearly the superior person. He went into a boxing ring. But the media still focuses on these mediocre white dudes who are basically the spokespeople of white supremacy. And the good people in our country, we have to start recognizing that. We have to start pushing back against it. You have a right to be offended by the rhetoric of white supremacy. You should be offended by it. And we're all caught in this. You're in that position where you have these powerful people where we're taught to believe that we're powerless. Well, you have to calm down, and they're more inclined to come after you. Well, that's just the way it's going to be. You just have to do this. Oh, gosh. Really, Sandra? I mean, you just mentioned another name. All these people out there. I mean, we shouldn't be engaging with that guy, MC, I'll call him, because I don't like to call these guys by their first names. I don't like, I always like to think of years from now, if people are doing some sort of account of all the work I did this year, I don't want those awful names to appear in all my text, to defile my text with their stains of their horrific hate language. Yeah, I mean, yes, Courtney, that's what we're trying to do here. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm on the fringe, but all my life, in my 50 years, all these years, I guess it's been 30 years I've been trying to write, and you're always pushed to the fringe, and you're always told, you're not, it's like, I know it's not that I'm not good enough. They just don't want that message. They don't want that message of kindness. I wrote an article today for the Writing Cooperative about how, when I was growing up, we had Mr. Rogers. Where is the Mr. Rogers of today? You know, you don't and actually somebody called me Mr. Rogers the other day, and I thought that was the greatest compliment I might have received in my life. They're like, "That's a Mr. Rogers energy." I'm like, "Geez, I mean, thank you. It's a beautiful thing to say to somebody." The only example I could come that was even close was Bluey, and, my kids have been watching Bluey, and this is Australian show. Um, yeah, I think okay, yeah, let me talk about it. So Bluey is this Australian show, it just depicts a nice family, it's lovely. And, it warms my heart, and just in my community, the library did a thing for Bluey, and everybody came out. So there's a deeply rooted need for people to find love and affection and examples of compassionate relationships. We have to start demanding them. Yeah, Mr. Rogers, thank you. You're so kind. I'm not that level. I'm not as nice and as Mr. Rogers, but I do want everybody to feel like they're important and that they're loved and that they're deserving of love, and you don't get that message enough. Let me back up here to what Lefty Prof said. Do you think the MC stuff should stop? It feels like a lot of energy is being used on it. I think what needs to stop is the expectation. People have this there when they become disappointed with MC, it's because they haven't taken to their heart that he's an awful human being. I mean, you don't feel disappointed with somebody if you already realize, I mean, there's nothing this current regime is doing. I wouldn't say it disgusts me. It doesn't disappoint me because this is what I expected of them. And so I've just accepted that that's who they are, and I think a lot of this MC stuff is people are trying to and the same is true with Massey. People are trying to sit there and think, "Well, it's so disappointing he would do that." It's not. Voting for the SAVE Act tells you what it is. What you should do then is I'm still getting people are like, "I'm defending what he did with the Epstein Transparency Act." You need to reevaluate what he did. If somebody does something that appears to be nice, and then they follow it up with an act of evil that would hurt women, you have to go back and reevaluate the thing that they did that seems to be nice. You shouldn't sit there and stake your flag on this. Well, he did this, so he's a good person. You have to have an agile mind. You have to use critical thinking. And when people again and again and again show that they're awful people, you have to believe it. That's what that means. So, oh, Sandra, yeah, and I told him to shut up. He called. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, he's not worth your time, though. And I was talking to somebody yesterday who is a paid supporter of Andrew Cuomo. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't be a paid supporter of these people. Don't be a paid supporter of Adam Kinzinger. Support the people that are out there speaking decency and kindness and goodness. And yeah, we have to change. Yeah, it is happening, Courtney. You're right. We are getting people are they're leaving. They're tired. The same way they found Bluey, they're finding independent media here. Um, Let me see. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's not gonna if he having any sort of expectation that MC is gonna be the guy who helps us or hoping or thinking that he has the key to helping us, not gonna happen. There's no point in wasting that energy. Thank you, B. I'm glad. I'm glad for you guys to say that I give he says I give energy of acceptance. I appreciate that. He gave me bad vibe from the start. Yep. So yeah, and he votes with this regime. So he's not a good person. They're not. But what I wanted to talk about today, the title. Let me see. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Um, I okay. I couldn't understand my own writing there. That's why I was laughing. The title is "I Understand Conservatives Better Than Rich Racist DNC Consultants," and this is an issue because and I've talked about a lot with Natasha K. I haven't seen her turn up yet. Oh, thank you, Sandra. You're so kind. I really appreciate that. She's saying she'll become a paid. She'll become a supporter, and I really appreciate that. It helps a lot. There's a lot of days when I'll get a paid subscription or like somebody's supporting. It's like and it's just like it makes you feel really good. I mean, all the comments, all the wonderful shares and likes. Somebody sent me the art that people have sent me. That makes me feel really good. And there's days when it's hard to wake up. And I do. I have kind of a dark moment in the morning a lot of the time. And actually coming on and being able to talk to you guys makes me feel as if, yes, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna be fine. And having the opportunity just because there's so much to just have to teach. And I come from a background in teaching, but you're restricted as a teacher. There's things you're not allowed to say in the classroom. And so having the opportunity to talk to adults is and say the things that are important that need to be said that are sometimes controversial is just so important. And I just wanted to convey, I'm talking about these Natasha K was talking about how she worked with the Harris campaign. Her Substack is called Truth She Wrote, I think. Natasha K, she's wonderful. Hi, Margaret. I'm glad you have a moment in the morning to stop by. I love and appreciate Margaret. She's so positive. She and I have the same kind of positive energy, and we get together, and it's like, whoa, it becomes electric. We keep building on each other, so that's wonderful. Yeah, and actually, when it comes to fundraising, I was thinking what we need to do is what rich people do, which is, if somebody should send me a hat, and it can be advertising, and then I could wear it for one of these talks, and then you can declare it as a business expense because it's advertising for your business. And so we can get around the paid subscription model and start taking advantage of the corrupt tax code, which we kind of have to do. But I wanted to give you all, I mean, Natasha Gay was talking about these consultants and how they deliberately work against the Democratic Party. And the example is people like James Carville, who, in my opinion, is openly racist. And, I keep saying, too, you have to draw the line at the Democrats who are pro-life because that's a ideology of white supremacy, and we can't allow that in our party. We can't allow it. And why I know these things is because I'm a kind of my background. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my background because I grew up in this really rural area. I spent a lot of time, out on the farm, just out by myself in the woods. I'd go out and play in the woods, and you'd come in and pull wood ticks off you at the end of the day. I actually, I grew up. I might be the last person you'll ever meet. This will give you a good idea about me. I grew up in a log cabin that my parents built. They built it. And there was a time in my family where all the brothers, my dad's side of the family, they went around building houses. I mean, they would cut down logs and strip the bark off and build a log cabin. And we lived in that house until I was about 13 or 14. So that's where I come from. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's like the reality of this. And, where I come from, few people escape. This is a thing that it's yeah, I wanna convey that. I had a graduating class of 106 people, and that's, like, not I mean, there's graduating classes of 10 or 50. 100 is pretty small, it's small. And, in the time I was in high school, we had three suicides, 3 students committed suicide. The average is I looked it up afterwards because it's like, that's weird. Northern Wisconsin is where I grew up. We had 3 suicides, and I looked it up. The average is like 1 in 100,000. So 1, it's like, okay, it shouldn't have been likely that we'd even get 1. The fact that there were 3 should have been an indication that something was really, really wrong in that community. And, nobody ever investigated. I mean, and this is just the ongoing thing. Yes, it's an extreme amount. And it's never investigated. And I mean, it's just the level of cruelty. I had a friend who went into the special forces. He did really well. And he he was growing up, here I was thinking that I wasn't particularly good at mathematics because this guy was just unbelievable. Well, it turns out he's like a savant is what this guy is like. He took a test for the military and he became like one of their top he was telling me how he took this test because he was, like, hungover when he took it. He said he was just seeing the answers. He wasn't even really consciously taking it. He was just seeing the answers. He's like, "Oh, this answer lit up." So he did that, and he scored higher on that test than anybody ever had. So I knew I was always comparing myself to him when I was 12 or 13. I'm like, I'm better than everybody else, but geez, this guy's, like, in a whole nother level. And it's, like, the difference between, a good local athlete versus an Olympic athlete, and then it's, like, later on, you're like, "Oh, I'm actually pretty good." But he said he went into the military. He was doing his special forces training, and one of the things was, he had to be pursued. They were like had a couple days where he was being pursued by dogs. He had I don't know what sort of thing he was in, so he had to like crawl around under logs and stuff. And then they would catch him and like beat him up and stuff to like do like interrogation training. And he said when he finished, they're like, "Gee, you came through this better than anybody." It's like, "How are you so mentally fortified?" He says, "Well, this is nothing compared to where I went to high school." And yeah, I mean, it's like if you get a high school like that, and this is a typical conservative experience. And I mean, if it had been a little harder, and I know that there are people that endure places because few of these stories get out. It's similar to what's going on with these Epstein files, these cover-ups. The Epstein files is just one cover-up. There are all kinds of cover-ups. And what people have to endure in a lot of these places, even when there's evidence, even when there's accusations, even when there's dead bodies piling up, and people don't look into it. And the Democratic consultants, I am pretty disgusted with them Because again, for the last several election cycles, Democrats have not even tried to make encroachments into these red areas. They rely on their blue wall. That gets them in, that gets them rich. And they're pretty content. Hi, Amber. They're pretty content to lose elections because when they lose elections, their donations go up. And that's what we're getting to these fucking racist Democratic consultants. They really piss me off, frankly, because we have ignored the rural community. Somebody reached out to me who has gone from teaching college to teaching in a rural community, and she's been just stunned by how awful it is in those rural communities. And I'm looking forward to talking to this person because the other side of this is the background I come from. And then I get online and I get these assholes who have lived in a blue state their whole life. They've had everything handed to them with ease, and they've, blue communities, blue universities, blue colleges, blue public school, and they presume to tell me what conservative areas think like. You do not know the struggle of getting out of a place like that. Almost nobody does. A lot of my classmates have died since graduation. And one of them died. He got just punched in the face. He was in a fight in a parking lot and got punched in the face and was killed. And I read about these. Quite a few of them are in jail. One of them was in jail. It's a horrific story. I'm not even going to get into it, but it was this. It was some sort of a sting child predator thing he's in jail for. And it's just sort of like, okay, you get those insights sometimes because I was in class with this guy, every day. And then it's like, oh, that all makes sense when you realize he's just been arrested for being a child predator. So I saw what that guy was like when he was 10 and 12 and 16. Yeah. Yeah. Well, rural communities are an integral part of this country, and I want to see them thrive too. And the Democrats ignore them is really what it comes down to, because there was nobody to ever help me. And even now I'm in a spot where I'm, 2 out of every 3 people I talk to are conservative. And I know what the conservative heart is like. And, and honestly, the indoctrination is so strong in places like that. And I just knew there was no other way out for me. I mean, it's another one of those cases where I was following my integrity rather than following my conscious thinking, because my conscious thinking got pretty heavily programmed to tolerate this conservative mindset, which ultimately will destroy you. And I've had points of awakening, but it was so hard for me as I went from, being a high performing student in the small rural town to then try to go to college. And so many things I'd been indoctrinated, just my behavior, and this is what I want to talk to everybody about with white supremacy, is that it's indoctrinated into you, and you get into a new position and you've been trained to respond a certain way to the way certain people are. And, it's just like, you haven't thought these things through. You haven't made that conscious choice, but you're just like, well, this is the way I'm supposed to react. So you react and it sabotages you. And I had to learn this, because I've been through periods in my life too, where, it's like what tends to happen is what we're doing now, as we're seeing it on this nationwide stage, where people find that they have, they have these MAGA in their family and they're ghosted. And that's, it's like, I'm never talking to that person again. And I say it again, I think that's a good strategy. And that's like the only time these just awful Republicans encounter any kind of accountability in their whole lifetimes, often. But it's this grievance state. But most of the time, then they just stew in it. And I've had it happen to me too. I've had it happen to me too, where I was trying to integrate and I had but if you don't have that model, if you don't have a role model for how to be a decent person, it's hard to just figure it out by yourself. And I was attracted to cross country skiing because that group is just filled with doctors and all these wonderful people, and they're so kind. And I kind of came into it, part of me wanted to go there, but then another part of me, this indoctrination, was making me resist it. So you get like, oh, those pompous fast skiers, and you're like complaining about the ones that are good, even as you want to be good too. And this is kind of like the conservative contradiction, the conservative mindset, which I had to remove from myself. And I got in with people, and then it got to the point where I could tell that they were getting really frustrated. They have patience with you. They're hoping you're coming along. They're kind to you. But then it gets to a point when you're just being impolite. And so they take a step back. And I've recognized that happening, not exactly ghosted, like we never want to talk to you again, but clear that they're not comfortable. And so that was another important moment for me where I was able to reassess these things that have been put into me, against my will, these behaviors. And I've done a lot of work to remove them. But if I'm not careful, it still kind of defaults to that. I mean, the things that are pushed into you, the ways that you're mistreated when you're 10, 11, 12, it doesn't just easily disappear. And you have to be always deliberate about that. And what we need is a society that recognizes what kids are facing in these rural communities. We just disregard that. And then back to these freaking racist DNC rich consultants like James Carville, who doesn't know a goddamn thing, and he just sabotages us. He destroys us. Let me read some of these things. Okay, yeah. Um, Cultural shock. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so hard. It's and most people like you guys, I'm kind of a unicorn. You're not gonna find a lot of people. You're not gonna find a lot of people who have come from my situation who make it here. You're not gonna find many. Most of them in the town where they grew up. A lot of them are dead. Few of them go to college. It's just unusual. What I am is unusual, and I've come along a path that exists in the United States that we need to recognize. Because when these people that know nothing and just insist on a strategy that has caused election loss after election loss after election loss, and then when I offer some constructive criticism and they jump down my throat, and then they insist on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, it's really offensive. And I just need that to be understood, that I know a lot more about how conservatives think than the DNC consultants. I know how they think. I know what we could do. If you wanna bring them onto our side, I know how you could do it. And, and it just and part of what and this is where I get into trouble though, because I look for my allies among the liberals. But then the DNC has got everybody so indoctrinated to believe that anybody who offers any constructive criticism is an enemy helping the other side that I instantly get dismissed. But the reality is our current DNC is only in it for the donations. They're quite content to lose elections because their donations go up and they don't really care about us. They're not really out there helping kids like me in rural areas. I would have loved to have any kind of help. And I'm quite happy with what I've done with my life. But sometimes it is heartbreaking when you think all this obstacles you had to overcome and how much energy was put into that. And maybe I could have made a contribution that was a lot bigger than what I'm doing. Although lately I've been thinking that everything in my life has led to this moment and it's pretty important. Let me read a couple of these comments here. Yeah, Amber, I lost a lot of people in my child in my 20s, mostly to substance use. Yeah, violence and avoidance escapism. Just that they're just getting wiped out, our kids, and it's gotta stop. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanna talk about. My Blue Heart says, "My in-laws are in deep Kentucky and, evangelicals. They are still Trumpsters, uneducated," and that's another thing. In my family, one of my dad's sisters married she went and was teaching in Kentucky, and she married a guy in Kentucky, and so that Kentucky family's been part of our life for my whole life, and they're just cruel people. They're really cruel people. Um, and they're just defiantly uneducated. I think the man she married remained illiterate throughout his entire life. And, it just they actually were into moonshine. They would make their own moonshine. They're all into fast cars. A lot of their kids, they had all kinds of kids. A lot of them passed away very young because of accidents, just horrific accidents. I mean, you see this in rural areas. Kids are basically they're slaves. They're fed into hay balers. They lose limbs. I mean, all these things are just terrible. And this is modern America. And like I said again, I grew up in a log cabin that my parents built. Yeah, I'm probably one of the last, and it's just there's a different reality that you come from when you're somebody like that, and that perspective needs to be more part of our national stage, especially from people like me who have managed to survive. Because for me, it's not enough at this point. I don't look at life as what can I do going forward, and the mindset is to get around obstacles and the constant American thing that's indoctrinated into you. Oh, you should be grateful you're in America. You look, it seems things seem to turn out well for you. And the objective shouldn't be to get around obstacles. Our objective needs to be to knock down those obstacles for the people that come behind us. That really needs to be it. We have to change our whole philosophy here. And that's a big part of what I call the white indifference. Because white people, they're just indoctrinating themselves to just disregard the atrocities of our reality. They disregard them. They go around. They teach going around the philosophy of and let's tear these obstacles down to make it easier for the people to come along behind us. That's one of the main things we have to change. Yep, lefty prof education is crucial, and our government is working overtime to make that education available to particular groups. Yeah, and I mean, growing up, I have a lot of stories to tell about growing up in my conservative community and how education was attacked and how you'd be subjected to physical violence for being a good student, as I was often, until I actually grew into my size a little bit. There's a pretty distinct memory of, when I hit my full height and, I became one of the bigger kids, and I mean, that's one of those factors beyond my control, which is why I was able to get out of that. Because if I'd been 'cause I'm just a big man. I'm 6 feet tall and about 220 pounds, and I've just had that physical size, and I came into it, pretty early, and had I been, 5 feet tall and 100 pounds throughout my high school career, I wouldn't be here now. I was physically big enough to shield a lot of the physical assaults I had to endure, and that's not right. I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. We have to tear down those obstacles because there's a lot of people that came behind who just didn't have the advantages I did. That's just completely random. The advantage of physical size is completely random. We shouldn't leave it so it's like I don't see these obstacles because I happen to be big enough to get around them while they crush other people. And maybe some of those people that didn't make it through could have had they could have come up with a cure for cancer, or they could have done all kinds of different things that would have made everybody's life better. So we have to turn around and help the other people up. I mean, it's pretty basic. We know this. It's just that what we don't recognize is the extent to which our viewpoint of the world and this nonsense that we repeat that comes often from these rich, racist, democratic strategists perpetuates this system of abuse. All right. With accountability, we must insist on re-education. Absolutely. We need re-education in the whole United States. We have to reprogram all this white supremacy bullshit that's been indoctrinated into people. Please share how to relate to your own mega family. I think when it comes to your actual family, you have to cut them off. I don't think you can. I mean, the ones in my family, the one time I was actually terrified based on just a social media comment came from one of my cousins. Because most of the time you're reading it and it's like, he wrote, I can't even repeat what he said. I mean, he wrote the most unhinged thing. We were in a debate about gun rights, and I just mentioned how the firearms, what's it called? The Firearms Something Act, the one that they passed right after the St. Valentine's Day massacre. It stopped all mass shootings that took place with machine guns. Um, it's like FRA. I can't remember. Anyway, and I was just like, it's not a ban. It's just Astro. It totally works because he was one of these gun rights people, and it totally works. It's not a ban. People can still have those guns, and so it undermines that right wing lie that gun laws don't work because they absolutely do. The National Firearms Act. I think that's what it's called. There haven't been any mass shootings with machine guns. I mean, the bump stocks make a a semi-automatic like a machine gun, but since that was passed, I mean, it's really entirely successful piece of legislation. Well, his response to that, I'm just talking about him with logic. His response was so unhinged. I really thought my life was in danger. That was the one time. And I've seen a lot of comments in my life. So yeah, but I mean, you have to be careful. They're mega gets unhinged. Keep your kids away from them, and just that I don't trust my kids around those people because they will indoctrinate. They'll take them to the side, and they can do a lot of indoctrination in just a minute or two. You can't have your kids around them. But then when it's not your direct family, those are the ones you can kind of oppose and you can maintain a little bit of a unhealthy connection to. But the ones that are too close, you need to establish a barrier. All right, here we go. Heather says, continue finding the spaces that are unfilled, like this time live on. I'm always wishing somebody was on early. Oh, good. I'm glad this helps. This just happens to fit into my schedule. My kids are off today, so I'm not going to be doing a lot today. I'm going to go play with them. I've been feeling really fatigued, but yes, I like doing this in the morning. Helps me feel like I'm getting something important done. It kind of takes away some of my stresses. It helps me sleep a little bit more to just do these talks in the morning. But there's just a lot to talk about, and in the past, this is what I've learned over this last year. I've always tried to kind of change the general mindset with these articles. And maybe a lot of that was because that was the only access I had. But I'm finding these talks are a lot more useful because we all need to be empowered and validated. That was a word that was coming up a lot. And the other one, a lot of the things I'm talking about, that validation. Otherwise, because the right wing tries to make you think that you are somehow there's something flawed about you for just basic things that you want. And just And, you know what, and having watched, like, my observations about the right wing and conservatives in general, like, they will just mock you for enduring the pain of having emotions is kind of the way they think about it. A story I always tell about my dad is because he said we wanted a dog, and he says, "Well, if you get a dog, the dog just dies, and then you feel bad about it." And it was just like, that's just such a weird way of thinking you're protecting yourself. I mean, it's a fear-driven philosophy, but refusing to love things because you're afraid of the day you'll lose them, it's such a heartbreaking way to go through your life and your existence. But they watch us, and they're resentful, and this I've felt this too because I was on the other side where I was indoctrinated with the conservative beliefs, and I was resentful of the things people that I don't even wanna call it a liberal, with people that embraced a progressive mindset of compassion and empathy and kindness and caring. As when I was indoctrinated, when I was in that haze of conservative indoctrination, which I was, in a way that no, Republic or DNC consultant could ever understand. I was in that mind space and I came out of it. So I know that path. And that's the difference between me and all these other people. And because there's not too many people like me, like I said, grew up in a house my parents built, graduating class of 106. I lived, our nearest neighbor was miles away. So there's things that I know. And I had to come out of that just utter, the jungle of the conservative thought and find my way to compassion because it was like that's where I had that lodestone of my personal integrity that I guided, but it was walking blind. And I finally got to a place where I could be, and I know the path. And nobody makes this trip. They certainly don't go the other way. Nobody would march into that, the heart of darkness. Nobody marches into that. I've marched out of the heart of darkness. And so that's why, again, listen to what I say, and you need to be subscribing to me and not to Adam Kinzinger. Adam Kinzinger is not gonna give you revelations about the conservative mind. I am. I'm the one who knows it. He doesn't. He's just another one of those grifters who wants to establish a status quo where he gets rich. The Democratic fucking consultants, the racist rich consultants, and my opinion is that James Carville is rich. They don't know a damn thing about the conservative mindset. They say they do, but then they lecture people like me who made that long walk, with no guidance and no help. I made that walk. And I know how to get more out of there, but I just need more power because people don't listen to me enough. I mean, you wonderful people are here listening to me. Thank you for that. We'll get there. Yeah, we need to find that. So I guess I got off on a tangent there. My family is mega. I don't attend my brother's wedding. Yeah, yeah, and I don't do anything with and them either. I mean, you avoid them. You have to protect your heart first. Um, how do you get them to watch anything besides Fox News? You know, there's so much that's going on right now. One of the things I think would really help, this idea of attracting more conservatives to our side. One of the things that would really help is just standing up for election integrity. And it's weird. I've been seeing this because I see so many bots come after me. Because what the impression is among conservatives in rural areas is they look at the Democrats and they're like, well, they'll never fight for us. They don't fight for us. There's no fight in those guys. What's the point? So they will vote for Republicans just to send a message to Democrats, you need to fight. And the Democrats see it and they become all pissy. Well, you deserve what you get, which is the wrong thing. And I've been talking a lot about election integrity lately, and people are just offering really strange comments. It's if because remember, conservatives know this. They do recount after recount after recount, and they persist in insisting on fraud even when none is discovered. And the Democrat response is like, we just have to just blindly accept everything that we're told. That's ridiculous. That drives people away from the party. That drives people away from Democrats. If Democrats did just something basic, like just saying, we're going to do a hand recount, just do one in one state, just demand it, just for the appearance of like, hey, we too stand up for election integrity. Here's what we've proven. We've listened to you rather than lecturing to us all the time. They have to they have to demonstrate that they're actually willing to fight for election integrity. And I had a guy yesterday. He's like, well, if you're like sowing the seeds of election denial, people won't vote at all. I'm like, what a nonsensical thing to say. It was an offensively nonsensical thing to say. Because Republicans haven't stopped voting because the Republican Party has been pushing election denial. So that's just blatantly not true. So we need to demand, um, some recounts. Go through, show that you're going to stand up and counter vote because the Democrats are far more willing to just blame us every time They lose, and we've given them the power again and again. So, yeah. So that's yeah, I mean, we're seeing too among the Democrats, and too many of these establishment Democrats, the consultants, they're saying things like, and it's really offensive. We have to be defenders of the trans community. And I have met so many wonderful members of the transgender community in this last year. They're the kindest people I've ever met in my life. And I think that it is a consequence of if you're living your whole life against the wall, being targeted for violence, you become kind, you become generous. And they're just unbelievable, the members I've met. And I've gotten a lot better and known a lot more about that community through the privilege of being able to talk to members of the transgender community. And the second a Democratic consultant starts saying, well, and they start acting as if they're willing to sacrifice the transgender community, you drive away the best people in our tent. And here's the thing that'll be a little bit surprising. If you'll notice that the Democrats never suggest like they'll pick up other look at the slogans the Democratic consultants pressure liberals to take up. Democratic consultants pressure us to take up attacks on the transgender, which is just appalling. The Democratic consultants could just as easily tell us to say, lock up Hillary Clinton. They could make that choice too. And that's just one person. That's not like the whole transgender community. And one of the main things I saw when conservatives were angry, when they've been angry at the MAGA movement, was when they didn't go through on the lock her up slogan. They didn't do any investigations. And more, based on what's coming out in the Epstein files, I mean, there's a lot of high-ranking Democrats who are quite guilty. And if we had Democrats start saying, hey, let's hold Merrick Garland accountable for not holding any of these. I mean, a lot of people have died because he didn't put, the current insurrectionist in jail. All these people would be alive still if he hadn't done that. And I feel their blood is on his hands. And Democrats just capitulate. They don't do any investigations. And and it's showing that spine. That would be the main thing. But yeah, and it's like, if they are innocent, they should welcome investigations. But there was that weird article the other day about how Clinton is resisting going in for testimony. And I'm just like, well, that's going to drive away people that would have joined the Democratic tent, because he should be going in. He should be transparent. He should be open. He should offer the testimony. Look, it doesn't have to be before Congress. Go do it his own public hearing. He can get sworn in and talk. He can do those things. And so we just know, and the Democratic establishment pressures us to never speak up or criticize the corruption on the Democratic side. And that's what drives a lot of people away from that party. And for some reason, they go to the right. But the right at least gives the appearance. They're lying, but they at least give the appearance of fighting. And that's what draws a lot of people to the right. And I mean, it's hard to hear maybe, but it's the truth. All right. Let's see here. A lot of it. Yeah, well, they don't have goals. They don't have enough education to realize the importance of education. That's true. I mean, but they've been surrendered. They don't have the resources. They aren't supported. And we just allow those things. And the messaging is such a big part of it. How the right wing hate messaging is so prevalent, and there is no rational mind messaging. There's no support for that. There's no money for that. And it's you guys here helping support me and helping to talk here helps make that happen. But I mean, we can't be blind to the corruption of the centrists. The centrists are corrupt as hell. Everybody knows that. We've got the racist DNC consultants and the pro-choice Democrats who are white supremacists. And these are the things we have to fix. All right, let me keep going here. June and July, it's almost impossible. My sister tried to get my brother-in-law to tune into something else. He just says, turn that shit off. Yep. I mean, and that's an ongoing thing with my life. And I've seen it. That's the conservative mind. They want to protect their own fragile emotions. So they never recognize moments when they've hurt others. They just pretend as if it didn't happen. I've seen them shut things off. And then they watch you feeling emotion and they resent you, because at the same time as you feel love for like a puppy, they resent that. And then when you feel sadness, they're more inclined to say, well, see, I told you so. You should have adopted this cold heart, I'm gonna write that down. Cold heart, the cold-hearted conservatives, the philosophy of the cold heart. I'm kind of I'm writing out loud here. But yeah, that's what it is. And they wanna make all of us have that dead heart, that cool heart. And they think they can get through life that way. They think that's a protection, that that's a necessity. You get that through these rituals, like the hunting rituals where you have to murder a white-tailed deer. And I went out hunting. I took shots at deer. I never hit one, and I was a good shot. I don't know why, because then when I'm sitting here talking to you, in my conscious mind, I made every effort to shoot a white-tailed deer. I pulled the trigger, and I always hit my targets, but I never could hit the deer. And I think what I've concluded is that I didn't ever want to. I didn't want to kill it. So I think I some part of me stopped that shot. So that's an interesting thing I've wrestled with. But you get put in these situations, and it's when you're under the power of abusive people and they make you do things that are against your inner nature and you find ways to resist it. Sometimes you're not even consciously aware you're finding ways to resist it. The complexity of this is enormous. And coming out from that pressure, it's difficult. Yeah, people can lack formal education, still be well informed, have critical thinking skills, and make a difference. Yeah, they can. They can. But it's just like I wish I'd had more opportunities. This is from Courtney. People can lack formal education, still be well informed, have critical thinking skills, and make a difference. I mean, I've got a bachelor's degree. I've talked to a lot of wonderful people on this platform with master's degrees and doctorates, so they have much more formal education than I do. A lot of my education is me leaving the country and teaching myself Spanish. I've taught myself a lot of things, self-taught in a lot of areas. But we do also need to have support and respect for education so that people like me, when I'm growing up, I don't have to endure physical assaults just because I'm curious and I want to learn things, be attacked for being a good math student, things like that. All right. I had to run find my phone. All right. If you lack curiosity, imagination, you're not a candidate for change. And I think they beat that curiosity out of the kids in these conservative areas. It's beaten out of you. Kindness is beaten out of you. I mean, they make you transgress against your integrity is what happens in these rural areas. That's why brutality is so commonplace. I mean, violence is a feature of the right, you know. It's an exception on the left and it's a feature on the right, and they beat you into submission. I mean, it is the ideology of cruelty, and it's not so easy. Courtney says, education is important for sure. I just think being educated and being well informed get used interchangeably more than they maybe should. You're right. These are complex topics, and yeah, it's a complex issue. But I just want to say we do need to have resources. We need to reach out for kids living in rural areas who are being tormented. And I mean, part of that is our resistance to that is because they're all MAGA right now. So we're just like, well, you get what you got coming to you, but the kids are always innocent. So focus on the kids. I mean, the parents, it gets to the point with the parents. And I mean, it's sort of like the complexity of like Ghislaine Maxwell, where you're like, yeah, she's a horrible, horrible person as an adult. But as a child, I'm fairly confident that she was probably abused. And so I have sympathy for her as a child, even though I condemn her as an adult. And it's kind of on our hands a little bit. When you look around, you see all these little kids who are being tortured in rural communities. And then we normalize it on the mainstream. That's why I get so triggered by the media when they actually engage with people that are these right-wing people like Nick Fuentes or Steve Bannon, and they listen to them and they platform them, and I don't get platformed. And then the Democrats, the consultants sit there and tell me that I'm the problem, even as they're trying to make inroads in with these just extreme hate, hate mongers that are out there. That's what we have to change. So it's a complicated thing. That kinda came from Courtney's comment. Hi, Kat. Hello, Kat. Please contact. Oh, wonderful. I like to see Margaret and Kat get together. Lefty prop. There's no infrastructure in these small towns. Yes, that is absolutely correct. And we just keep taking them away. How value can you feel when you don't even have a hospital or basic support system like therapy? The cruelty in these small towns you would not believe. Again, speaking as a person who grew up in a house that my parents built. Hi, Karen. Yeah, the things that are depressed. Even now, there's so many things that I just go without, and I just don't even think about it. A lot of my life, and it's that mentality again of avoiding obstacles rather than taking them down. And just there's a lot of features out there that our society offers to other people that I'm just like, well, those are for other people. Those aren't for me. And overcoming that mindset would help people because A lot of people in these rural towns, they have access to things, but they're just indoctrinating themselves to think it's not for them, so they don't even embrace it, so they don't see the value, and that's why it's so easy for them to repeat this anti-socialism conditioning, which is really just anti any program that would help to elevate them, and they will turn away, from things that would help them. They will reject them. They will endure pain rather than change that ideology. I mean, it's a strange thing, but I mean, that's why the right wing is such a violence enabling ideology. They themselves endure physical personal torment. That's why they have no, uh, hesitation to inflict that on other people. And yeah, they want to establish that cold heart where nobody can feel. They think the only way, and they honestly believe in their minds, they've conditioned themselves to believe this. They honestly believe that the best way to prevent suffering in the world is for human beings to have that cold heart where they stop feeling love and affection for anything, where they just recognize some people are sacrificed. I want you to understand that. I mean, it's evil. I mean, it's an evil thing, but it's how a person that maybe had the potential to be a decent human being brainwash themselves into being an enabler of evil, a tool of evil. And we were talking before. I want to mention this because Courtney, I was thinking about this because we were like the word evil maybe isn't a word we should use, but I think in this case because we don't want to dehumanize, right? And it is a tactic of the right to dehumanize people so that they can abuse them. But I think, and we don't want to be like that. We don't want to take that into our heart where we are using tactics of dehumanization. At the same time, these men who are out there who are, murdering babies and eating them. I think I'm not against the idea of saying that the people that murder a baby, a person who would murder a baby and eat it is not human. I think that is evil. So but I've been thinking about it. I'm going to continue to think about this. Courtney and we pledged to write articles about this idea, but yeah, it's coming up again. So I thought I'd mention that. Nice to see Karen. Some of the smartest people aren't formally educated. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, but it's so hard. I mean, and that's the thing, we get dismissed because I mean, it's pretty easy for people to, oh, he doesn't have a doctorate. What does he know? And you don't understand. The path that I traveled is so much harder. Going from that, the heart of darkness, I said, the cold heart ideology to decency. That's a hard path. People don't walk that path much. You will not meet today. I doubt you'll meet anybody else who has done what I've done. So, and I would like to be respected by people who are the silver spoon Democrats with their Ivy League degrees. I could handle any Ivy League school. I feel confident about that. You put me in, I'd do as well as any student. But when I was 18, I wouldn't have. I would have been collapsed. And that's not because of anything I fundamentally lack. It's because of the torture I had to endure. And let's make no mistake, the conservatives in these rural areas are enduring torture. MAGA parents are torturing their innocent children. And we have to have some sympathy for the kids. And a lot of the right or the left wing ideology is helping everybody, even our opponents, because these things make everybody rise. We rise together. Better education helps everybody, even the ones who, look at it kicking and screaming. And we have to help those kids. So, I mean, put aside and I mean, it's not, I am as frustrated with MAGA as anybody, but I still have empathy and compassion for the kids who have no alternative but to sit and endure that bullshit every day and listen to those toxic adults. So that's the thing. Yeah, the adults have to be deprogrammed. We have to stop. We have to start I honestly feel we have to start rounding up the white supremacists. We have to, and we should subject, you got white supremacy tattoos, you need to go into some kind of deprogramming center. You need to be fixed. Like the film American History X. We have to do that kind of thing. And we have to stop pretending that's not the issue because it is. And we have to stop listening to these rich, racist DNC consultants who are looking no further than to try to win the next election and or lose and get more donations than they're actually changing the problems of this country. Thank you, Karen, for your kind comments. Let me keep going. Unhinged. I love these. Yeah, this hat isn't. It's from a business I used to own. This hat. So yeah, but thank you, Karen. Thank you, Garrett. I do. I take care of myself, and today is going to be kind of a rest day. Well, I don't know what the disc scale is. DISC. I don't know what that is. You'll have to let me know what that is. I'll scroll through, but I might not see it. Yep, the fear, 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 and just consider that poor cold heart ideology, the ideology of the cold heart, the stone heart. I mean, if you read Game of Thrones, there's a character who's got a stone heart, Lady Stoneheart, she's called, and it's just it gives you a certain amount. It gives you the illusion of power in the short term, but in the long term, it destroys everything. Everything it touches dies. I mean, you not loving, depriving yourself of the ability for connections, loving connections with things, it kills you and it makes you a tool of evil. And we have to fix that. We have to. We don't have anything in our society to help people. I mean, look at that. We don't have anything that when people that have endured loss, we just don't know what to do. I had one of the fathers of my daughter's basketball team just lost his father, and I just went up to him and I put my hand on his shoulder and I'm like, "I'm sorry for your loss," and I just talked to him for a while, and even that was something I had to overcome because there's a temptation to just be like, "Oh, let's just pretend everything's fine like always and keep going, and he'll be fine, he'll be fine." But it's just so much more empowering when you address that horror that we feel and that sadness and just say, "Hey, I'm with you. It's okay to feel this. Let's feel this. Don't give up on feelings just because you're feeling something bad." And we need to do more of that in our society. Yeah. Thank you, Kat. Yes. And I wish this was part of the national dialogue because people still aren't taking it seriously. And a lot of the reason is people like me don't exist, honestly. People don't come they don't they don't get to make that long, hard journey from where they were and tell you how bad it was. And then when I arrive, at the center of education, I'm not believed and I'm dismissed because there's a lot of false actors among in the DNC, the center of the DNC. Yeah. 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 You got to cut ties with people. I mean, yeah, like that unwillingness to love, that unwillingness to show empathy, it's part of it. Why go to grad school? You're too old. Yeah, never, never. I would like to go again. It would be fun at some point to do it. I'd like to pick up my master's in physics or something because those classes, although I've probably forgotten all the math. But yeah, but secretly jealous is a trait of the conservatives. They are jealous of all the things. They insist it's such they're living, walking, talking contradictions. They insist their way is right, but they are jealous of the people. They want to transform everybody into them, but they're also jealous of the people who have things that they'll never have. So and that's why we can't listen to them. That's why we can't take them seriously. That's why we can't platform them and have conversations with them. And you can't have Steve Bannon on your podcast if you're Gavin Newsom, because you're just spreading evil, a toxic mind virus. They don't deserve a platform. The radical right doesn't. And honestly, it extends all the way to pro-choice Democrats because that's white supremacy. Pro-choice is not, restricting abortion access is evil. It's not a valid position to have. If you want to be anti-abortion, good. You can say, I wish women had, access to good treatment and access to good nutrition and access to partners who didn't beat them and access to healthcare and all these things. That's how you're anti-abortion. But if you are legally restricting access to reproductive health care, you're evil. If you're using the law to force people to do that, you're evil. And this is where our society is because there are a lot of Democrats who will sit there and defend that ideology. That's how far we have to swing. I mean, that's really the reality of how far we have to swing. And the more people that kind of start understanding this, start awakening to this, that's where we're going to get our progress. Thank you, Karen. That's such a lovely comment. Yeah. She just says, "We love you and thank you for speaking out. Thank you guys for listening. It's so important." Yeah. And Rebecca says, "My MAGA brother in law, college educated. It's hard. I mean, that's the ones that are college educated and still fall for that are the ones that are most disappointing. Cult behavior is significantly more difficult to work with than with somebody lacking education. And a lot of that is because we don't have the infrastructure in our society to call out the cult behavior. So that's what we're trying to work on. And I've been talking about this a lot with Ellie Leonard, how she's doing this just fantastic job exposing the crimes of the Epstein, that's just the untouchable class. I think somebody was telling me I need to call them that. They think they're untouchable. And it's so important. Bring those crimes to light, but we also need to reestablish our infrastructure so that we prevent that, recognize it, and acknowledge the evil of it. And we have more, just of a respect for accomplished people and critical thinking, people who have achieved achievements. We don't have that now. And it's like even people that go through education can still then become indoctrinated. The reason is we're not constantly slamming it. The white supremacy ideology needs to be slammed every day. We need to have people who are, and that's part of why I think it's so important, this argument of saying, hey, if you are pro-choice, you are a white supremacist. Because they teach it in in Catholic schools, you know? I mean pro-life. There, I just messed it up. If you are pro-life, have I been doing that? Have I been doing that this whole time? If you're pro-life, you're a white supremacist. If you're restricting the access to reproductive health care, I guess it's just early. And I mean that you have these religious schools that are like they're so anti-abortion and they indoctrinate people. They're using a white supremacy ideology that's paid for by our tax dollars. You guys knew what I meant. I'm sitting here embarrassed now for misspeaking, but it happens. It happens. And we have to reestablish that framework so that people don't fall in because it's like Rebecca just said, people who are educated, their college education, they still fall into that brainwashing, that death funnel that gets them because there's so much pressure out there to normalize white supremacy ideas. All right, I'll scroll through. Thank you for speaking out. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Keep trying to reach them, relate to them when they're so far down the rabbit. It is, but we have to do it. I mean, and a lot of it is what's exhausting is fighting against these establishment norms that normalize white supremacy. We just have to call them out every time we do. It makes people uncomfortable. I've got a couple more interviews with congressional candidates, and I just want every time I talk to a congressional candidate, I'm going to mention child rape, just because we have to stop child rape, and the Republicans are allowing it, and that just has to be part of our dialogue. We can't sit there and say, "Well, that's an impolite or an inappropriate thing to talk about," because it's happening and it has to be stopped. And we can't, we can't persist with this white indifference, this ideology of white indifference, where people refuse to see the horrible things that are happening in the world and who I feel they deserve some protection from that. I mean, the stories that are coming with the Epstein files are just horrific. Yeah. Okay. She says the tangents are good. Yeah, good. And Hart said, had a good conversation with 14-year-old MAGA kid at a protest yesterday. I saw a kid protesting. He was out at the little protest circle with his pro Charlie Kirk sign. I was really tempted to go up and just talk to him. I ended up not doing it, but I just like, you realize what a bad person that is? Charlie Kirk was a bad person, and just help somebody along the path. And people have done that for me, and I had those helping hands because when I was in that place of darkness, in the heart of darkness, and I didn't see the helping hands. He pushed them aside, and yet some other part of me did take them. So it's there. So there's a lot of credit goes to a lot of people that did reach out, but we just need to fortify that. We need to make that better. I live in a very red area for my blue state, going to school in the 70s and 80s and being surrounded by MAGA. I saw it every day. Well, everyone said I was and I gotta not use that word, but I was the one who was out of touch. Nice to see everyone here believe in democracy. Yeah, and it is that we need to we need to validate each other. You're not wrong to have these criticisms. You're allowed to do that because you can tell your heart knows that it's wrong. And then Kat says, check out Walter's article, abusive behavior, addictive behavior. Which one is that? Oh, it's a note there she shared. Yep, and the SAVE Act. But I mean, we got to stand up against the SAVE Act. I mean, just the idea that that's being discussed. I mean, that's the SAVE Act is another example of white supremacy, where they're trying to control. I mean, white supremacy tries to control women, tries to control their bodies and their minds. It sees them as property. And ultimately, white supremacy sees all people's property except for the one who has kind of taken the place of God. I've been trying to tell people that, or convey that just there are different sections of Christianity, Lutheran, Protestant, Roman Catholic. White supremacy is one of those. It is an offshoot of the tree of Christianity. It is defiled Christianity, but the other Christians have to stand up and denounce it. Instead of saying, do you renounce the works of Satan? You should be saying, do you renounce the works of white supremacy? And they have to take some accountability and responsibility for that. They have to be in this fight better because they've been too complicit and too silent. And they've allowed it to just go because some part of them thinks it helps them. And I guess that applies to white people so much. You hear white supremacy and so many white people are like, well, maybe it'll help me. It's not going to. It's going to kill you. It will kill you. It will take everything from you. It will leave you a rotted husk of regret and resentment. Yeah. SAVE will hurt women most. I think so. I'm reading some of these wonderful comments here. There's a special election a while back, a lady dem who lost and has to do a hand count. Rep said they didn't want to bring into question the integrity of elections. See, that's wrong. I mean, your comment is right, Alex. But yes, we have to start doing hand recounts. We have to change that. That's a big pressure point. We have to start talking to our representatives. The next time I talk to a congressional candidate, I'm going to bring that up. I want to see them do hand recounts just to make sure our elections are secure. And we have to control that narrative because we have every right to do what the why do the Republicans get to hand recount every time they want? We never do. That's not right. That's not fair. Why don't we have that power? That's legal. There's nothing illegal about it. And this idea that we shouldn't go through it, just ensure that all votes are counted and that our representatives shouldn't fight to make sure all votes are counted. It's like they want us to quit. And like, what are we doing to stop the Republicans from cheating, from transgressing, from denying and discarding votes? We have to go up and establish that we will not let it stand that they will let the elections be stolen. He wants public hear well, he can do it himself. We're talking about Clinton now. He can do it himself. Set it up. Do it. Testify. Make it visible. I don't, if it's outside if he goes to jail because of it, he should go to jail. We're talking about kids, being murdered and tortured and raped. So that people have to do something. Nobody's doing enough. Good conversation. Oh, I saw that one already. Uh, I admire lack of empathy. Somebody says I speak with a lot of them at the dog park. That's good. Those conversations you have in casual settings like that are super important. Um, the culture of narcissism is true. I mean, not everybody knows that. It aligns with narcissism beautifully. Oh, these are good comments. I'm kind of rolling through here now, and I'm at an hour, so I'll probably go in a second. But I don't know. I don't know enough about the Rick Wilson Lincoln Project guys. I've seen good things from them, but I don't know enough about them. Thank you, Karen. That's lovely. Here we go. Kat says, when I first got into therapy, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and realized when I walked into a room, I would judge everybody very harshly and aggressively in my mind because I had anxiety. When I realized that I was doing what I was doing at 32 years old, I quit doing that. Yeah. And this is a thing too. I've been seeing people that are like, I'm disappointed in Massey. And it's like, you shouldn't be disappointed. I mean, once you realize that's because you are sitting there holding on to this belief that he's a good person, that's what makes you disappointed. Accept what you know to be true, that he's not a good person. He's not going to stand up for us. Make them stand up. People are so wishful thinking. They want to believe that the Republicans aren't as bad as they appear. The guy said he was going to be a dictator on day one. He has been. So accept what you see and believe. Yeah. Oh, gosh. And underestimate a lot because of my education level. Luckily, it amuses me to be underestimated. Yeah, I mean, and one of the things, again, coming from that background of a rural community, 100 people, 106 in my graduating class, I found this list of the 100 greatest books that were ever written, and I read them all. So I was always walking around with these weird books. I wrote an article about that, these quests I had to go on to find these books. And, and so I knew a lot more than most of the students I went to college, but I mean, the social aspect of it, this indoctrination with conservative mindset that made me self-sabotage was what I had to overcome. That was a real challenge. And there was nothing to help me. There was no resource I could go to where people could identify, oh, you've been indoctrinated with the conservative hate mind virus. We got to help you get over that. Nobody found that. It helped me. I have to find and help others to do that. That's my job in life. I had to pay my way for schooling. Yeah, I mean, and that's not right. We need to have free schooling. Oh, here we go. I play feelings, board games with my grandkids, being around on feelings. Yep. And yeah, just talking about feelings is another thing. That's so off the board in American society. We do have to help our children. Torturing. Does that refer to what's in the Epstein files? I mean, the Epstein files is torture. I mean, what all these rich people did in the Epstein files, they tortured kids emotionally, physically, sexually. That's torture. And as torture is what I had to endure growing up in a conservative community because they want to turn you into a cold heart, and the way they do that is by torturing you. They want to torture the feelings out of you. They keep making you endure pain until you give up on the thought that it's even possible to feel good. That's what happens in these places. We need car wash. Yeah, I mean, hello, Eric. Good to see Eric. It's the issue, but how do we get around First Amendment? I don't understand that comment. I mean, the First Amendment already says there are things we can't say. A doctor can't go and just talk about like the minor, like the health problems of a minor. So nobody's like, well, that's a violation of the First Amendment. It's like, yeah, you can't cause harm. So white supremacy causes harm. The ideology of white supremacy causes harm. So nobody should have any right to speak things that cause harm. I mean, there's and I understand too that there is this whole aspect of these false First Amendment, people, these free speech who really are just trying to protect, hate speech. And that's the thing, we just have to call them out on it. And people they present themselves as if they're having like an intellectual dialogue, which they are not interested in having. That's another thing about conservatives. They're lecturing you and they're trying to pressure you and fight you. It's the same way where they want to restrict. And again, any restriction on reproductive health care is white supremacy. I'm still kind of, I got to watch. Maybe I didn't even do this, but I was kicking myself for getting the words wrong just in my flow state talking here. But, any restriction on reproductive health care is white supremacy, and they present it. They try to pretend like they're having a dialogue. "Oh, human life," and all this bullshit. They're trying to kill people, and you just have to just dismiss that. They don't meet the minimum requirements of an intellectual conversation. If you are in an academic setting and you start spewing some nonsense, your paper deserves to fail. And, we know that's established. There have to be these boundaries, and these First Amendment things where they're just like, they wanna be able to talk about hate speech. Well, you're not allowed to threaten people's lives. You aren't allowed to incite violence, and that's what white supremacy does. So we already have that structure in place. It's just that the white supremacists have tried to make us ignore it, and we can't allow them to do that anymore. And it's just about finding a spine, not among liberals, but progressives have been doing it. We just have to platform the progressives who are doing it a little bit more. So Eric's there. Great to see Eric. Okay, great. It's nice to see everybody say hi. Uh, oh boy. All these wonderful, wonderful comments. And again, all you guys, thank you for being here. All this stuff is always tough stuff to talk about, but we have to talk about it. I mean, we've been groomed and indoctrinated and conditioned to not talk about these things. And that's what's got us here. We have to say that those are our rights to discuss these comments. Uh, T-shirts to mock the eighth grade. I don't know that story. People bring in wonderful things. Yeah, go back to school again and again. Yeah, it would be wonderful, and it would be nice if we had more opportunities to just learn. Yeah, hugging people, and I do too. And you got to be careful, but I always ask permission first. But I hug people too, and people do need it. And sometimes you just feel people. You feel like energy and power go into them when you give somebody a hug. Can I give you a hug? I had a lot of people. I was wearing a shirt that said "Elect Women," and at a demonstration, and people were asking if a lot of older women came out and said, "Can I just hug you?" And they were so appreciative of a man speaking out saying we needed to elect women. Yes, do it. Hi, Rachel. I see Rachel. I wonder if she's still here, but I was just, I need to reach out to Rachel because Rachel's so brilliant at This Woman Votes, and I keep reading her commentary. We had a talk a while ago. We need to talk again. I always so appreciate the way she assesses a lot of the things I write. And I really appreciate, I appreciate all you guys, all these wonderful people here, Courtney and Nikki and Lefty Prof, everybody as I'm scrolling through the comments. You guys are so helpful. And I mean, we keep fortifying each other. We keep, what was that word? People vindicate each other, validate each other. And we just realize that we do have a right to ask for more than what we've been getting. Yeah. The white patriarchal infantilizing of all women is driving so much of this harm. And I've talked about that before, how these guys that are so driven, when you take that cold heart ideology where you just don't appreciate love and appreciation and compassion and affection, it cuts off any chance you have of ever having true love or true emotional bond. And so it transforms into hatred for women because it's mainly men who are subjected to this and who are the carriers of this. Yeah, but and so then, well, they are just gonna and women have done nothing. They're just attacking them because of their own ideology, which makes them perceive the world in this negative way. Yeah, and this is Cat says a good one. It's like, it's like these people, it would be why aren't people financially supporting downtrodden? And that helps. I mean, so much child poverty. It's like the kids get the worst of it in this society. The kids just get the worst of it. And just so much of these people that tell themselves these arguments to justify torture and abuse, and it's gotta end. And, we have to allow ourselves to, because if we just embrace society that actually works, where we have programs, social programs that help elevate people, we eliminate so much suffering. It goes away so fast. I don't know the yeah. This guy with his woke up from a comic, coma comments. Um Yeah, oh god. Let me read this. Label this comment, but brought you on the drive to feed the crank okay, cranky old man cat again. The sunrise on the way was gorgeous. Supposed I like this. This is just kind of like a nice little break. Supposed to rain soon and the clouds are showing off. Anyway, I think we should especially be focused on anti-surveillance. You saw that some 2A conservatives were upset about Alex Preddy being labeled terrorist by the regime despite the shift. This is a good point. I'm going to stay at pause for a second. This is a good point because there's so many conservative arguments we can leverage, and people get mad at you for doing that too. But I was, calling up law enforcement, saying, "Hey, are you upset that ICE gets paid more than you with their $45,000 bonus and what they pay, and they didn't have to go through all the things? And they're not held to the standard you are." So we can incite. We don't have to completely change the hearts of conservatives. Just getting them angry at MAGA is a pretty good victory. And so sometimes we have to just focus on that too. That's a great comment by Amber. You saw that some 2A conservatives were upset about Alex being labeled a terrorist by the regime despite the shift from freedom to nationalism. I think many distrust tech and feel like, yeah, the overreach threatens their privacy. They absolutely do. That might be a backdoor we can exploit to start opening. Yep. And if we can create divisions in their coalition, which is a shaky coalition, we'll get there. Nobody's doing enough exactly right. It feels, yeah. We need to do more. We need to wait, especially the white community has to wake up and be enraged. All right, thanks, Courtney. Please rest and enjoy your day. I'll rest today. Thank you. I was trying to get my kids out to go skiing. We'll see if I make it. Uh, they'll probably sell it or go public sometimes. What? I don't know what it is there. All right. Take another sip of my coffee here. Rebecca's off. Yeah, so I'm gonna scroll through here. Oh, if you've gotten words wrong, I've been just translated real time because I didn't even know. Okay, good. Maybe I didn't even do it. I was just sometimes I have my little panic attacks when I'm talking here because, and this is I am still pretty new to this. This is like composing in real time, and usually before I hit publish, I scroll through, and just make sure I didn't make any goofy mistakes. But then it's like, oh, and then I think, oh shoot, did I just say the wrong thing? So I just like to clarify. But it's worth. I mean, another thing I've learned in the last year is this is you don't get to write 1,000-word article. I mean, I consider myself a writer first and foremost. You don't get to write, "Hello, Judith." She probably wrote that 20 minutes ago, but I'm like, "Hello, Judith." But I consider myself a writer first and foremost, but it's at beyond the point of I think writing was the act of exploration where I'm kind of fortifying what I actually think, and now that I kind of know it, and at this point too, I feel very proud of the things I've done. Mainly raising my 2 brilliant and compassionate, daughters. So, and my eldest is, closing in on 16, so I gotta worry about driving. But it's like I know now. It's like it's not theory anymore. These are things that I've done, and I know how to do it. I know how to make kind people. I know how to create a kind house that's filled with love and support and affection. I know how to do those things. When I was 18, that's what I wanted. I set a goal for that. I got there, and a lot of people don't have that. Excuse me, my coffee, I guess, is bothering me. So continue talking. Neurodivergent is suffering around getting coffee made. So that's wonderful. Yes. Probably, yeah, like I said, as I slowly go through here, people, I love to talk about hugging. Yeah. And making, yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up in a little bit. Maybe I'm trying to scroll through down to the end of the comments here in case I missed anything, but who knows how. Oh, okay. I'm down at the bottom. Oh, there's a new one. Oh, you guys, again, and I've been on for like an hour and 15 minutes. So again, thank you so much for being here. Let me just summarize again. Like I wanted to talk to you about. I grew up in a cabin my parents built, which is one of the things that people haven't seen. Few people are like that anymore. I was out in the middle of nowhere growing up, and it was just, I call it the heart of darkness, the cold heart, the conservative ideology where they teach you to be hateful and that violence is inevitable, and they teach you to reject your own intuition. Yeah, everything I say is things I have to. I know a log cabin. Cut down woods and you strip the bark and you stack the logs like Lincoln logs, and you make a cabin. That's where I grew up. I was trying to remember if I don't know what we did for the wiring. There must have been cables just along the wall, or maybe they stuck it between the logs, but we didn't even a lot of times when they make log cabins now, they cut them so there's a flat section, but ours wasn't like that. The logs were just stacked, so there was this huge gap between them. And, yeah, I mean, there's things that I remember from that. And, it's just the struggle of growing up in these conservative areas where cruelty. Yeah, there was what is it? There's just a well. There's a well on the property. No, okay, no, there's a well. We had water. We had electricity and water. Yeah. So coming from a place like that, being able to actually fuse and become a part of modern society is not easy, and so much of America is like that. You know, we did have a wood stove. Yes, they eventually they put in. We didn't have a basement. We had a wood stove, yeah, but that nobody asked that question. It was an old, actually Franklin stove. My mom still has it. It's with these like the stone. I think it's called mica. Is the stone you put in there, and so you'd watch it. So we had a wood stove, but then they put electric heat in it eventually. And I wrote a story about I don't think I've imported it from Medium yet, where I made the layout of the house just from my own memory. I was painting it because I don't think there's any pictures. I couldn't find any pictures of it from that part of my life. There's some, but few. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't believe where I came from, and that gives me insight into this conservative mindset and just the reality in the United States. Is the extent to which white supremacy is normalized. And like I say, one of the main issues right now is the restrictions on access to reproductive health care, which is white supremacy. Yep. Like Little House on the Prairie. I actually took my daughter, we drove to one of the houses. Our house was big. I've seen the Little House on the Prairie home. I can't off the top of my head, I can't think of the name of the town where it is, but it's in Wisconsin. Their first one from Little House in the Big Woods. Yeah, it's not coming. I'm having it. The memory is not working today. But the Little House on the Prairie House was a lot smaller. We had like a it's I mean, the original house was pretty small, and then there were additions put onto it. But the original one was a structure. It was probably 2 or 3 times as big as the Little House on the Prairie house, our first house. And, I'm irritated. I can't think of the name of the town where Laura Ingalls Wilder was from. And, yeah, growing up in a place like that with under those circumstances, and you just kinda get this sense of all these things that are at fault in the United States, and we just have to make these efforts to go and, first of all, stamp out this ideological cruelty that's so normalized in our society. Yeah, and, um, and it's like a person who comes all those people get a right to vote, people who grow up in these awful places, and they don't really have access to the same level of understanding, and that's why it's so critical to have this movement where we are teaching rational beliefs and rational ideas, and give people the option to explore kindness. Because when you're presented with this idea that it can only be cruel, that the world is only cruel, and that you're foolish for having soft emotions, the emotions of kindness and compassion, which is what I was indoctrinated to believe. That's how we end up with these white supremacy movements. And we do. I mean, we have to from the top down because I so often these places which are a little bit more privileged, they look down on a place like where I came from, and then they're just, "How can you be like that? How can you be like that?" And you don't realize what it's like to be in that situation. And I'm just asking that we give some help. We give some help and we help people from places like that explore this idea of being kind, and we stop platforming white supremacists, and we stop being tolerant of people who are anti reproductive health care because that leaves women tortured. We have to stand up for those rights, and we have to call out things as white supremacy indoctrination that they are, because it's become normalized in the United States. And so much of what the DNC does right now, it fails to do that. We have to change the heart of the DNC too, so they are more active, where they're standing up and they're recounting elections, because the white supremacists cheat. They do. And that's just part of their ideology. All right. That book reads different when you're grown. Yeah, I bet it does, Judith. I bet it does. I, it always made me creepy. It gave me a creepy sense. Little House on the Prairie gives me a really creepy vibe. Um, and it's, growing up, the show was on TV. And I always thought I never liked watching the show, and actually my grandma was a big she just loved it, like, and yes, Little House on the Prairie is sort of a white supremacy, manifesto, and it's like this much beloved thing, and it is, and it's like, that's something we need to call out and say, "Pepin, that's it, thank you, that's the place." I went down there with my daughter to look at it. So, yeah, and it's like it is you do have that obligation where when you read that, because it is this historical document, and it's inadvertently shows a lot of the horrors of things of our country. Yeah. I mean, I attended an all-white Lutheran school in suburban Michigan, nothing more racist than religious Christian. Yeah, in the United States. You get down to South America when it's Roman Catholic, and it's different. And because I've been saying to people too, and I brought this up earlier, Judith. I don't know if you're there, but white supremacy is a school of Christianity. There are various different viewpoints. White supremacy is the defilement of Christianity, And currently in the United States, ICE is arresting Roman Catholics. All the immigrants coming up from South America are Roman Catholics. So this administration is waging a religious war against Roman Catholics, and it's the ideology of white supremacy that exterminates people. So we should talk sometime, Judith. I've seen your name before. I appreciate your comments. Yeah, I did not like that show. Anyway, though, I think I'm kind of winding down. I kind of was all over the place again, keeping up with the comments. But I mean, I appreciate all you guys. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Feel validated. Don't be afraid to stand up and talk about the things. And don't be afraid to call out the Democrats when they get their messaging completely wrong. Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes so far back. But yeah, that's. I don't. So yeah, yeah, well, they never stand up. Nobody ever it really bothers me that we don't have part of our public dialogue that this administration is rounding up Roman Catholics. That's what they're doing. And, so everybody I met in South America, my wife, I mean, they have this such reverence for the Pope, and, they're all being round up here. There's a different form. The Catholics I met in South America were so kind, and it was different, but I mean, you're not in a white supremacy society if you're in South America. That was really important for me. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna start leaving it now. Again, everybody, stand up to white supremacy. Stand up for women's reproductive rights. I just got to validate, make sure I didn't get my words crossed before. But yeah, these little kind of words things come out sometimes when you're talking freely like this. I don't get a chance to edit when I'm just doing a free talk like this. But I appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you too, Courtney and Amanda. Oh, she just joined, but I'm about to leave. Thank you guys. Leave me your comments. Leave me your questions. As always, I do think deeply about the things that you say. I think about them a lot, and this gives me the opportunity to talk about that more. But yeah, keep coming back, keep feeling powerful. And yeah, all you wonderful people, you give me a lot of hope. We got to change though. It's more than just accountability for the Epstein. We have to change the whole infrastructure that allows, people like me when I was a kid to grow up without any kind of help. You know, we need to change that. Um, Okay, Amanda, I'm glad that you were back. All right, take care. Try to get some rest today, everybody. It's a beautiful day. This is our life. Try to find good things. Give yourself rest. And I will probably be back to talk tomorrow. I like getting up in the morning and doing this. So thank you so much. See you soon.